The world was changing once again. A profound shift was underway, a chill that crept from the very poles of the planet. From the sun-drenched coral reefs teeming with life to the towering, silent peaks of ancient mountains, Earth was bracing for a new era, a time of extremes. Imagine a world where the oceans, those vast, warm cradles of life, began to shrink. Not because the water vanished, but because it was being stolen, locked away in colossal sheets of ice. This was the dawn of a new ice age. Glaciers, rivers of frozen time, began their slow, relentless march from the high latitudes. They weren't just confined to the poles. They spread like crystalline continents, grinding across the land, swallowing forests, plains, and entire landscapes. North America, Europe, Asia all felt the icy grip tightening. The world's thermostat was plummeting. Life, which had flourished in warmth and abundance, now faced its greatest challenge. The struggle for survival became a daily reality. On the frozen plains, vast herds of mammoths, with their thick, shaggy coats and colossal curved tusks, roamed in search of sparse vegetation. Woolly rhinos, built like furry tanks, charged across the tundra. In the sparse forests that clung to the edges of the ice, saber-toothed cats, with canines like daggers, hunted giant sloths and prehistoric bison. Every creature, from the smallest insect to the largest herbivore, had to adapt or perish. The rules of the game had changed, and the stakes were nothing less than existence itself. But this story isn't just about ice. Beneath the frozen, silent surface of this white world, another more ancient power was stirring. Fire. Deep within the Earth's core, the planet's molten heart continued to beat. Volcanoes, hidden beneath kilometers of ice, rumbled with untamed energy. They were the planet's pressure valves, and when they erupted, they did so with unimaginable force. Picture the scene, a cataclysmic explosion that tears through the ice sheet from below. A pillar of steam, ash, and molten rock blasts into the frigid sky, a stark contrast of black and orange against the endless white. These subglacial eruptions were titanic battles between fire and ice. Lava flowed beneath the glaciers, carving out immense hidden caverns and creating vast subglacial lakes of meltwater. Sometimes, this water would burst forth in biblical floods, known as J-Skuklaups, reshaping entire continents in a matter of days. These volcanoes did more than just melt ice locally. With every eruption, they pumped enormous quantities of gases into the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide, a potent greenhouse gas, slowly began to accumulate. It was a planetary thermostat, being slowly, painstakingly turned back up. The very forces of fire, buried beneath the ice, were sowing the seeds of the next great thaw. This wasn't just destruction, it was creation. The constant volcanic activity shaped the continents, pushing up new mountain ranges and forging the very land we walk on today. The age of ice was also, secretly, an age of fire. And amidst this epic clash of elemental forces, a new chapter in the story of life was quietly being written. In the shadows of the giant megafauna, in the burrows beneath the frozen ground, and in the crevices of the rocks, new kinds of creatures were not just surviving, they were thriving. They were small, often nocturnal, and incredibly resilient. These were the first true mammals. While dinosaurs had ruled the Earth for over 150 million years, their reign had ended in a fiery apocalypse. In the aftermath, the mammals which had lived in their shadow for so long finally had their chance. The Ice Ages were a harsh crucible, but they were also an opportunity. Being warm-blooded was a tremendous advantage in a cooling world. Fur, an amazing insulator, allowed them to brave temperatures that would freeze other creatures solid. These early mammals were not the giants that would come later. Think of tiny, shrew-like animals scurrying through the undergrowth, their whiskers twitching, constantly sensing their environment for food and danger. They were adaptable, intelligent, and had a powerful secret weapon: their devotion to their young. Unlike many reptiles that laid eggs and left them to their fate, mammals invested heavily in their offspring. They gave birth to live young, nurtured them with milk, and taught them the skills they needed to survive. This strategy proved to be incredibly successful. As the Ice Ages waxed and waned, with glaciers advancing and retreating over thousands of years, the mammals diversified. They filled every available niche. Some evolved to hunt in the cold nights. Others adapted to a diet of hardy plants and roots. Some even returned to the water, paving the way for future seals and whales. They were the ultimate survivors, the underdogs of the prehistoric world, quietly biding their time. The Age of Ice and Fire was more than just a period of climatic hardship. It was a forge. It tested life to its absolute limits, filtering out the unadaptable and rewarding resilience, intelligence, and cooperation. The epic struggle between the crushing power of the glaciers and the creative fury of the volcanoes set the stage for the next act in Earth's drama. The giant beasts of the Ice Age, the mammoths and saber-toothed cats, would eventually fade into legend, their stories told only by the bones they left behind. But the small, furry creatures that scurried at their feet were destined for a different fate. They were the ancestors of every mammal alive today, from the bats that fill the night sky to the whales that sing in the deep, and even to us. This frozen, fiery world wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. It was the crucible that shaped the future rulers of the planet, forging the resilience and adaptability that would allow mammals to inherit the Earth. The echo of that ancient ice and the heat of that primordial fire still resonate within the story of life today. For thousands of years, the world held its breath, trapped beneath a blanket of ice. An age of white silence where survival was the only language spoken. But listen closely. Can you hear it? A drip, then a trickle, then a roar. The great thaw had begun. The ice, a seemingly eternal titan, started to retreat, surrendering its grip on the planet. Imagine witnessing this incredible transformation. The world, once a monochrome canvas of white and gray, slowly revealed its true colors. Rivers, imprisoned for millennia, burst forth with unstoppable power, carving new paths through the ancient rock, creating the valleys and canyons we know today. Their waters, rich with glacial minerals, flowed across the barren lands, breathing life back into the dormant soil. The air, once sharp with a biting frost, grew softer, carrying the scent of damp earth and the promise of spring. For the small bands of humans who had endured the relentless cold, this was more than just a change in weather. It was a new beginning. They had been tested by fire and frost, sharpened by the harsh realities of a frozen world. They emerged from their caves and shelters not just as survivors, but as a people tempered by hardship. With a newfound resilience and a deeper wisdom, they had learned the rhythms of the ice, the secrets of survival, and the profound strength of community. With the retreat of the glaciers, the desperate struggle for survival began to ease. And in that space, something new and powerful took root: curiosity. The question was no longer just how do we survive today, but what lies beyond that mountain, or what can we build with these stones? From the crucible of struggle, the spark of creation was ignited. This wasn't just the end of an ice age, it was the dawn of the human age. As the planet warmed, so did human ambition. The seeds of civilization, scattered by nomadic tribes, found fertile ground along the banks of the world's great rivers: the Nile, the Tigris, the Indus, the Yellow River. Small, flickering campfires of knowledge grew into the steady lights of permanent settlements. Hunting camps evolved into villages, and villages swelled into the first bustling cities. People began to cultivate the land, domesticate animals, and develop complex societies. The Ice Age had drawn to a close, its story written in the very landscape of our planet. But for humanity, a far grander, more complex journey was just beginning. The journey to build, to connect, to dream, and ultimately to shape the world in our own image. The epic of civilization had started, and its first chapter was being written by the hands of those who had once merely survived. Imagine a world waking from a long, frozen slumber. This isn't a fairy tale, it's our story. The great sheets of ice, which had held the Earth captive for millennia, were finally in retreat. As they pulled back, the land beneath sighed in relief. It was a new dawn, not just for the planet, but for us. Think about that moment. The air, crisp and cold, begins to warm. Water, once locked in ice, now flows freely. It carves its way through the raw earth, creating rivers that will become the lifeblood of everything to come. These rivers didn't just carry water, they carried the promise of a future. They nourished the valleys, turning barren landscapes into green, fertile cradles, ready to nurture new life. And what of humanity? We were there, survivors of a brutal age. For thousands of years, our ancestors had been nomads, hunters and gatherers, their lives dictated by the changing seasons and the migration of herds. They were tough, resilient, shaped by the harsh realities of survival. But as the world changed, so did they. The struggle for mere existence began to transform into a quest for something more. They weren't just surviving anymore. They were starting to build. This is where our journey truly begins. Look towards the sun-drenched lands of the Near East, Africa, and Asia, the Tigris and Euphrates in Mesopotamia, and the Indus in what is now Pakistan and India. Along these fertile banks, a revolution was quietly unfolding. People discovered that they could plant seeds and, with the river's help, watch them grow into food. This was agriculture. It sounds simple, but it changed everything. For the first time, we didn't have to constantly move. We could stay in one place. Small settlements, clusters of huts made from mud and reeds, began to appear. These weren't just temporary camps. They were homes. Families grew, generations put down roots, and villages blossomed. As populations swelled, these villages began to trade with each other, sharing goods, ideas, and innovations. Slowly, inexorably, these villages grew into the world's first cities, places like Uruk, Memphis, and Mohenjo-Daro, filled with thousands of people living and working together in ways never before imagined. With so many people in one place, new challenges arose. How do you organize society? How do you keep track of trade, of grain stores, of laws? The answer came in one of humanity's greatest inventions, writing. It started with simple pictures, pictograms, etched onto clay tablets or carved into stone. A symbol for grain, a symbol for a person, a symbol for a god. But over time, these simple marks evolved into complex scripts like cuneiform and hieroglyphs. These weren't just records, they were the first whispers of history. For the first time, human thoughts, stories, and laws could be preserved and passed down through time, no longer reliant on the fallibility of memory. We began to speak to the future. And what of the old tools, the old ways? Fire, once just a source of warmth and a way to ward off predators, was harnessed in new and powerful ways. It became the heart of the forge, where metal was smelted from rock. Copper, then bronze, gave us stronger tools, sharper weapons, and more durable ornaments. This mastery of metallurgy was a quantum leap in technology, accelerating progress at an incredible pace. The stars, those distant twinkling lights, also took on new meaning. For hunters, they had been a celestial map for navigation. Now for priests and kings in these new cities, they were a calendar, a clock, and a divine oracle. They charted their movements, predicted seasons, planned harvests, and believed they could read the will of the gods in the constellations. Astronomy was born from this celestial gaze. Let's zoom in on these incredible civilizations. In Mesopotamia, the land between the two rivers, people faced a constant struggle with unpredictable floods. So, they became master engineers. They dug intricate networks of canals and irrigation ditches, taming the wild rivers and channeling their life-giving water to vast fields of barley and wheat. They built monumental temples called ziggurats, stepped pyramids that reached for the heavens, connecting the earthly realm with the divine. They gave us the first legal codes, like the Code of Hammurabi, establishing justice and order in a complex society. Travel west, to the banks of the Nile. Here, in Egypt, the river's predictable annual flood was seen as a gift from the gods. This rhythm of flood and recede shaped their entire worldview, a cycle of death and rebirth. It inspired them to build for eternity. They erected the pyramids, colossal tombs for their pharaohs, engineered with a precision that still baffles us today. They developed a sophisticated system of medicine, mathematics, and a pictographic language. Hieroglyphs that adorned their temples and tombs with stories of gods and kings. They didn't just build structures, they built a bridge to the afterlife. Now journey east, across the rugged mountains to the Indus Valley. Here, another great civilization emerged, with remarkably well-planned cities like Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro. These cities had advanced sanitation systems, with public baths and covered drains, a level of urban planning not seen again for thousands of years. While we still can't decipher their script, their artifacts tell a story of a peaceful, prosperous people skilled in trade and craft. And in the wider Indian subcontinent, a different kind of exploration was taking place. Mystics and philosophers began to look inward, not outward. They contemplated the nature of existence, of consciousness, of the self. Through meditation and introspection, they sought to understand the universe, not by conquering it, but by finding the divine spark within. This was the pivotal moment. The world, in a sense, truly awoke. Humanity, no longer just a creature reacting to its environment, became a force shaping it. We looked upon the raw material of the earth, the clay, the stone, the water, and saw not just what was, but what could be. We looked at our own communities and saw not just a collection of individuals, but a society. It was a declaration, a bold statement made not with words, but with cities, with canals, with pyramids, with poems. A statement that said, "This is our home, and we will make our mark upon it," from the humble mud brick and the sharpened piece of flint. From shared dreams and collective determination, the first civilizations rose from the dust. They were the foundation stones upon which everything that followed was built. Our laws, our languages, our science, our art, our very idea of what it means to be human at all has roots that stretch back to these incredible river valleys. This wasn't just the beginning of history, it was the beginning of us.